Vileena Peterson is a graduate of BYU. She's wife to Nicholas Peterson and mother to 5 kids. She is Navajo and has been doing cultural presentations since grade school, so she has tons of experience. Vileena is also a champion Native American hoop dancer, and she's great at that, obviously, because she's a champion. She also loves yoga. Right now, she can be mostly found exploring the desert and mountains with her family crew. She grew up in central Utah and currently resides in southern Utah, and I'm really excited to hear from her.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. And just big thanks to everyone who's joining us tonight. Like, seriously, that's so awesome that you're here. Especially all my family and friends. It's fun to have you guys here. Hi, everybody. We should have done this during COVID. It's so fun to see you all and know that you're here. I love everything that Jocelyn said. I wish I could find a study or, the numbers to back up my experience, but you just get my experience tonight. I wanted to start off with just an interesting talk I had with my family, and I am full-blooded Native American. My husband is, his mother is from the Nikankuppen people in British Columbia, Canada, and his dad is a Utah Mormon boy with Danish descent. And so our family, some of the kids came out looking like my side of the family. Some look kind of like the Danish side, and some are a mix in between there. And we had an interesting discussion because talking about and growing up here in Utah in a Mormon community that was settled back in Brigham Young's day by a mandate. That's one of his last mandates, is to send people to settle the area where I grew up in. And anyways, I knew some of the issues that would potentially come up for the kids. And I have one son who looks a lot like my little brother when he was born and when he was a baby. He has really dark hair. His skin complexion is a nice dark brown. And here in southern Utah, we talk about the majority of the makeup of the people and the ethnicities, and he's a minority in this area. And since I've lived here a couple times, and I've been yelled at while walking down the street. Mistakenly called a Mexican. I don't know. I get it all, I guess. And they're like, "Go home, Mexican," and whatever. And just like walking down the street. And this was when I had my first child, and I was pushing her in a stroller, and I wanted to get out and walk to the store because it was nice weather and get some exercise rather than taking the car. And yeah. And then, I don't know, there's so many stories that have to do with just how you look and people basing their responses just on how you look. In fact, in BYU, I like to live off campus and you find your own housing, but it still has to be housing approved for BYU students. And I had a friend that I met, and she was a wonderful girl. Her name was Sarah, and I met her at, it's called Girls State. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I met her at Girls State, and we kept in touch. And so we ended up at BYU together, and she's like, "Hey, we have this home if you want, we've got a vacancy." And I'm like, "Yes, that would be awesome. I would love to be your roommate." And she had extra room. So I said, "Okay, well, I've got a couple friends." And we had been in the process of moving in. And she came to me feeling super bad, but she said, "I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to live here." We've been living there less than a week. And she said, "You're not going to be able to live here. my dad says that he doesn't think it would be a good idea because you guys will just be too rowdy, and kicked us out. I'd never met her dad. I'd never talked to her dad. I'd never seen her dad, never talked to anyone, even heard her discuss her dad, you know? And so we got kicked out, and I was so mad, but at the same time, I'm like, nothing I can do about it. And so I felt mostly bad for my friend because she's the one that had extended the invitation and made the arrangements. And then her dad came in and said, no, this is not going to work. Without ever having met me, talked to me, or my roommates. I had a Latina roommate who was a good friend of mine, and it was me and another brown person. We'll just say that. And later on, I did have the opportunity to have him rescind that because he placed an ad in the paper for people to come help work, and I somehow found that ad and thought, oh, okay, I can go work the weekend and just help this out and make a little bit of money for, you know, a little bit of side cash. So I ended up like not realizing it was the same address as the address we got kicked out of until I was pulling up and around the corner, and I was like, what do I do? Anyways, and I was like, well, we're here and I'll just get to work. So I introduced myself. I said, hi, you hired me, and so what do you want me to do? And all I did was work that day. And coming from a small farm town and having a ranch that I grew up on and having an academic scholarship as well as Jocelyn and all these things, like I was a hard worker. And by the end of that day, he had realized what a hard worker I was. And he did come up and apologize. And he said, sorry. He's like, sorry for my assumptions, but at the same time, I was just like, I wanted to say, well, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you ask? Like, why? Just why? You didn't know anything about me. And, but I didn't. I've never been very vocal or very able to just talk about things like that. I just accepted his apology and said, okay, thanks. And, so my son, going back to my family talk here, my son, his name's Mahanrai, and he's been growing his hair out the last 2 years, which he cut just 2 days ago or 3 days ago now. It's so sad. But one of the reasons that he cut his hair wasn't the big deal for me. The big deal was the reason why. And the reason why is just because he got so tired of being called a girl. And it was so just redundant for him in the community and wherever he went that he finally just accepted the name. And he's like, it's not even worth it for me to correct him. I don't care anymore. I'll just brush it off or whatever. And he would accept it and just let people call him a girl and not even correct them. And that's what hurt the most. But we had a talk and just talking about, well, if anyone's going to get picked on in this scenario where we live, like, who would it be? And all the kids said, yeah, our brother Mahanrai. I'm like, yeah, why? And they're like, oh, because he looks different than a lot of the people in the community. Or just that little, he looks different. And they could pin it out even at their age. And my oldest daughter, she's 15, and then all the boys run down from there to the age of 4. And they were all, yeah, this is because he looks different. But then on the other hand, we talked about, well, when we go to the reservation and we're hanging out with all the natives in the family, who's the different looking one there? And they're like, oh, well, all the others are, and they're like, oh, okay. And we're like, who do you think will get picked on there? And they're like, oh, I guess we will. I'm like, yeah. Anyways, so I think just as humans, our makeup is to be even just biologically, to be leery or I guess take notice of things that are different. I think biologically it could mean disease. Biologically, it could mean intruder or something dangerous or something unknown. But as humans, we have the opportunity, like Jocelyn said, to take that moment, and we have the opportunity to, I guess, be open to learning still. I feel like one of the biggest fallacies for church members, since this is a Mormon women group, is that people in general are either good or bad, or people in general are right or wrong. And I think growing up in the church, like so many times I was on the wrong side, and not because of anything that I'd personally done, not because of the choices that I'd made, but just because of who they thought I was. And to them, it, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like, yeah, it wasn't a bad thing for them to condemn me for who they thought I was.